And if any of these folks, the tax collectors and sinners, would happen to forget their place, which is not among the good people, not among the nice folks, not among the respectable ones of the society, if any of these folks happens to forget his or her place, well, there are the religious authorities, the political authorities to remind them. Which brings us to the second group, the Pharisees and the scribes. Now we know that in part, they are there following Jesus to keep an eye on him, to make sure he doesn't do anything untoward, to make sure that he doesn't run afoul of the law, which he does over and over again in their eyes. They're there to make notes and keep track. And when they see what Jesus does with the tax collectors and the sinners, what do? They grumble. They grumble. And Jesus, seeing this, tells them a story. 2 stories. 3 stories, actually, but only 2 of them are among the readings for today. But they all talk about the same thing. If you were to outline these first 2 stories, and even the more famous third one, known as the prodigal son, which is misnamed, by the way, but if you were to outline these stories, you'd find the same outline. First, something is lost. Second, a search is made. Third, the thing is found. And fourth, they have a party. Now, when these 2 groups, the scribes and the Pharisees, and the tax collectors and the sinners, when they hear these stories, they're going to think different things. You know, these parables Jesus tells, they're stories that are familiar enough that anybody can relate to them. But people are going to relate to them in different ways. We all tend to identify with something or someone in a story that we read, so that we have this connection with it. Well, as these 2 groups of people hear these stories, they're going to identify with different parts of the story, and they're going to have different reactions. The tax collectors and the sinners, the ones who know they are lost, the ones who have come to Jesus because he welcomes them, the ones who have listened to Jesus, they understand that they are the lost ones in the stories. And what they're going to hear when they hear these stories is, it's a party! Because they were lost and now they are found. And God is saying to them, rejoice with me. Rejoice with me. That which I had lost, I have found. Rejoice with me. And that is good news to people who know they are on the outside of society. To know that even though they are sinners, God welcomes them. Not only that, but even though they are sinners, even though they are the lost, God is looking for them, and God has already found them. A sheep cannot save itself, cannot find itself. A coin cannot save itself, cannot find itself. God is actively looking for these lost ones and welcomes them. That's what the tax collectors and sinners are going to hear. They're going to hear, hey, God looks for me. A sinner. Chief of the sinners, foremost of the sinners, as Paul says. God looks for us. God has found us. God welcomes us into the community. That's what they're going to hear. This is great news. This is maybe the best news they can have. It's a wonderful thing, a life-changing, powerful thing. But that's not what the Pharisees and the scribes are going to hear. What they're going to hear, those who think they are already among the found, those who are have already repented, who have already established relationship with God. That's not what they're going to hear. They're going to be offended. They're going to be offended because in their minds, God doesn't welcome these kind of people. That's the wrong kind of people. They're the people who are inconstant in their faith. There are people who do not perform the rituals as they should. There are people who have no respect for the law. There are people who are sinners in their very conduct, in their very nature. We all know they're sinners. God doesn't want them. God wants us. And when they hear of this kind of radical hospitality that Jesus is talking about, and when they see it embodied in the actions of Jesus, and then they hear Jesus saying that God welcomes the sinners, then they're going to be offended. And if that weren't enough, they're smart people. They're going to know that when Jesus tells these stories, they're going to know that the ones who do the seeking in the stories, the ones who do the finding in the stories, represent God. And one of them is a woman. No, thank you very much. Everything that Jesus is saying is going to offend them. And his words become a challenge to them. Because what does God do when God has found the thing that was lost? God has a party. God throws a party and says, "Rejoice with me." And so Jesus' words are a challenge to the religious authorities. He's saying these people who were lost are found. Rejoice. Be happy. Be glad. Have a party. And they won't do it. You see? They won't do it. What do? They grumble. They mutter under their breath. They sound like the people of Israel when they left Egypt. "Oh, I wish we were back in Egypt. At least we had something to eat."